Dzień dobry, everyone. Why almost every foreigner eventually leave Poland? It's a very interesting topic. Some of you may not know that I live in Thailand countryside with my wife and our 12 dogs. Even though I'm from Canada, I've been living in Thailand for 10 years. So I think that my perspective will be interesting because even though it's not Poland, I have immigrated to a country very far away from home. So I will be able to share my perspective if I agree with him or not. It's Where's Wes? Yes.
Poland is not for most foreigners. Seems like a lot of people are romanticizing Poland right now because of their strong anti-illegal immigration stance, their very nationalistic and protective culture, how safe it is, how fast it's developing. And that causes a lot of people to come here for the fantasy. They think that, oh, Poland is this utopia here in Europe. But then all of a sudden reality hits and most people end up leaving. I've lived here long enough to see people come and go.
I don't think that's why people go to Poland to live or to travel, but let's go. Let's see what he's going to say.
I'm going to tell you exactly why most foreigners end up leaving Poland. So this seems to be a basic pattern. A lot of foreigners come to this country and they go through the honeymoon phase. I know for me, because I only visited Europe, but this is the first time that I've actually lived here. Getting to experience the European life is amazing. Public transportation everywhere, a lot more chill and laid back way of life. Not a heavy focus on work, but more of like a work-life balance, healthy food. But after the first couple months, especially from months 3 to 6, I think that this is where a lot of people change their mind. The big problem with a lot of foreigners, especially here in Poland, is that they refuse to integrate. I think most people do it out of laziness.
I think he's missing a point. I don't know if he's going to talk about it, but not everyone travel or go to Poland or go to any other country with their goal to live there forever. Most people that go to a country like Poland will be like digital nomad like him. He was not in Poland before and he left, and now it's in Poland, and in 1 year he's probably going to make a video about him being into another, why I left Poland, for example. Because the honeymoon phase lasts, but if you're a digital nomad that work online, you can work from everywhere. So every few years, you're going to change country, and it's normal.
Or maybe it's a certain arrogance that comes with it. A lot of people here are here transiently, right? They're here for a time. Either they're trying to make their way to Western Europe, or they're only here for the summer so they can go out, hang out with friends, meet some women, and then they all eventually leave. So because they don't have a lot of investment in this country, they don't really choose to integrate. And a lot of people end up living this life for years. It's crazy the amount of people that I met that have been here for 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, and still don't speak one lick of Polish. That is not Poland's fault. That is a refusal to integrate by these foreigners. Now,
I don't think that's a big deal, honestly. I don't speak much Thai at all. I think it's mostly like, how do you contribute in the sense that, like, do you decrease or increase the perception that the outside world have of your country? If you go to Poland and you don't cause any trouble, mind your own business, I don't think it matters to what level you integrate. What does integrate mean anyway? Does it mean like rejecting your own culture and integrating to that culture? Because imagine you're someone from a Muslim country and you go to Poland. Does integrating mean becoming a Catholic? Like going to church every Sunday? Starting to learn Polish right away? I think that if you mind your own business and you don't cause trouble and you're like, are not a criminal and like pay taxes and everything, I don't think the rest is that important. And I don't even think that that's why Polish people are mad at immigrants. I think it's because of what they see in the news and a lot of crime happening. That's why they're mad. I think that if there was no crime happening and everything was very peaceful, I don't think that there would be like a lot of like bad sentiment toward immigration. So I don't think it's because of a lack of integration.
when I see other people praising Poland, it feels very hollow because a lot of the stuff that they talk about is very superficial. And a lot of people seem to be only hyping up the country to get views because Poles love it when you talk well about their country and they'll just farm you for views forever. So let's talk about the biggest hindrance for a lot of foreigners, and that is the winter. I find it interesting that winter here seems and feels extremely miserable to a lot of people. But if you go to the Nordic countries where winter is objectively worse, for some reason, winter feels better there. And I think the Nordic philosophy on winter is they talk about embracing winter instead of surviving winter, whereas I think the Polish mentality is a little bit more about surviving the winter. It's great up until around New Year's, but January and February is absolutely hell. I'm sorry. There's something about the vibe in the air, how short.
So I agree with him partially. I think one of the problems is that the Polish winter, because it's cold but not that cold, it's like you're asking yourself, like, is it winter or it's not winter? Because when you're in Canada or in Sweden and it's winter, you will feel that it's winter because it's cold, and you will feel it because of the snow. In Poland, it's like there's going to be snow, there's going to be cold temperature, but it's never going to be like a true winter in a sense, where you can go out dressed from head to toe with a lot of stuff, and you feel like you're in Santa Claus like country in a way. In Poland, it will always feel like it's half winter. That's why I think it's miserable, because the fun is when the snow is everywhere and you're like surrounded by like what feel like Santa Claus, you know?
The days are, the feeling that everybody has, and maybe just the lack of color in the country as well, that makes people extremely depressed. And that's why a lot of foreigners who like Warsaw only really come for the summer, but as soon as it gets cold, most people leave. I personally like the 4 seasons. Every season has their own vibe. Fall to me is easily the best, and I like spring a lot, but winter can be rough, and I can see why. But also, if you didn't do a good job of making community and friends during the summer, during the winter, it can feel extremely lonely. So this is going to be the 3rd Polish winter that I survive. I am well prepared this time. If you take vitamin D consistently and you have a good community of friends around you, winter all of a sudden becomes a lot more manageable and a lot easier to deal with. If you guys are enjoying the video, give it a like and please subscribe to the channel. Helps a lot. All right, so let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is the language. Now, it's not a secret that Polish is very difficult, but there are a lot of issues with this language. So first off, if you only speak English, making the jump from English to Polish is crazy. It's like going from level 2 to level 5 in language. Because I speak Mandarin and Spanish, transitioning to Polish was actually not that difficult, because a lot of the sounds that people can't hear, we have them in Mandarin. So I've been able to hear a lot of the consonant sounds, and a lot of the grammar rules actually share a lot with Spanish, which is why a lot of Latinos that end up moving here to Poland end up speaking very good Polish. Polish people are very proud of their language being extremely difficult, but are also frustrated when foreigners refuse to learn the language because it's so difficult. I think a lot of foreigners who have lived here for a long time just refuse to learn the language out of laziness or arrogance. Oh, I don't need to learn it. Everybody here speaks English. But if you...
No, as someone who don't speak Thai that much, I don't think it's arrogance. Laziness, maybe. When I go to a restaurant, if I'm able to order in Thai, it's kind of enough for me. I already had to learn English growing up, and I hated learning English. And English is not considered a difficult language to learn. I had a lot of difficulty learning English because my first language is French. So it was very hard, and I kind of learned in university. I had no choice because my university was in French, but a lot of the books that we had to buy were in English. So I was kind of forced to learn English back then. Thankfully, because English is so useful all around the world. But I feel like if I go to Poland, especially if I don't know how long I'm gonna stay, I think it's a stretch to learn the language unless you really are committed that you want to live there for the rest of your life, I think. Because I feel like, especially the young generation in Polish, they will be able to speak English to you. So
don't know the language, Polish people just treat you differently. As someone who's been here for almost 2 years, my Polish is like pretty good now. It's like a A2, but I can converse with most people in most everyday situations. And the treatment is so crazy different. They treat me all of a sudden extremely warm. They're very impressed by my level of Polish. Now I also understand what they're saying. If you don't understand Polish and you hear them yelling at you, you think that they're just angry and rude. But if you know exactly what they're saying, you just know that that's just how they speak. They're not saying anything rude. They're just extremely direct. And these are all nuances that you can only learn if you take the time to learn the language. But I think that if you don't speak Polish, you will feel like an outsider forever here. And I think that's why a lot of people say that when they live here, it can be quite lonely. One of the things that I like about Polish people is that they are a lot more direct and they're not fake. So they make fun of us Americans because we like to do small talk and it's a lot of BS, and I can see where they're coming from. But in my opinion, as an American, that's just good manners, right? But for them, if you ask them how their day is and how they are doing, they will tell you for real, and then they'll go into like detail about everything that's going on, and that leads to a lot deeper connections and friendships, I think. Like they have a very hard exterior, but once you really get to know them, you realize they're super, super funny. Polish humor is like some of the best ever. I play PlayStation with this Polish guy that I met in Poznan, and the jokes that we have are so crazy. We go from many extremes, like to religion or to race, but it's all in good fun, bro. But it's very difficult to break into those groups.
I'm not a fun guy. I don't like making jokes, so that part would not work. I have pretty dry humor, so.
Initially, Polish people will be polite to you as a foreigner, but it's quite rare now where they'll try to go out of their way to befriend you. Poland is a country where it's a lot more rewarding the more you invest and put effort into it. The more you learn about the history, the more you learn about the language, really separates you from the other foreigners. And as you've seen on my channel, I feel like Polish people appreciate and respect that a lot. So one of the big issues about this country too is the bureaucracy and the residency and visa process. So it's quite difficult to stay in Poland. I applied for my TRC in January, but now I'm waiting for my fingerprints appointment. They were supposed to give it to me in Krakow in June, but because I moved cities to Warsaw, I had to reapply in Warsaw. So now I'm waiting for the fingerprint appointments again, and it's been almost a year. So a lot of people I know.
I read the story on another YouTube channel, a guy that had to wait 5 years to have his like citizenship or whatever it's called in Poland. So the bureaucracy is very long, just like in the US. And I think that's one of the problem is that it may end up frustrate people like him, you know. He might end up having to just quit at one point if he go into too much hurdle, and yeah.
Oh, when they wait for their TRC, they're kind of stuck in this country and it can take 10 months, 12 months. I've heard some processes take up to 2 to 3 years even. But if you know the right people, if you know the right lawyers, if you know how everything works, then it can be a lot easier of a process. If you guys are interested in how to move to Poland or how to get residency here, all of that, set up a consultation with me here. We can talk about it. Another way that you can legally live in Europe is by getting a second citizenship. There are many countries that offer citizenship
that's what I was talking about, citizenship. He's talking about another thing, right?
through investment or
It's his paper allowing him to work? What is it? I'm confused.
family or business. One of my best friends, Rafael at The Wealthy Expat, this is all that he does. He helps people get second citizenships all around the world. Having another citizenship comes with a lot of perks. There's a lot of tax benefits that come with it, and being able to travel more freely and live in places all around the world. His company has helped hundreds of people get second citizenships all around the world. He speaks English, Spanish, German, Russian, and Polish. So if you guys are interested, I highly recommend booking a call with Rafael, and you can learn a lot more information on his channel, The Wealthy Expat. All right, so let's talk about some juicy stuff. Polish people, and I would say just everybody in this part of Europe, like Eastern Europe especially, they have a reputation for being racist, and that is this is kind of a complicated subject because I agree and I think overall it is true, but they are racist to certain groups of people over others. Asians, thankfully, here are highly respected and appreciated, so we're kind of like the good immigrants and they like us a lot. But if you are Arab, if you are Indian, if you are black, they receive a lot of hate.
This is the same thing in Thailand. This is the same thing in Canada. This is the same thing in the US. And it's a divide by religion. I'm pretty sure that any country that is Christian that go to Poland, the immigrants are not viewed negatively. I'm pretty sure that everything start and end with religion. Not necessarily skin color. It's just that there's no white country that are Muslim. The white country are mostly Christian. So it's mostly a religion division.
From the local people. Yesterday I was playing PlayStation with these Polish guys, and one of the guys was like, "Oh, you're an immigrant? I hope you're not an abomination from like the African countries." And I was like, "Whoa, bro." But he kind of said it as a joke, but I know this is the mentality of a lot of Polish people here. Now, this may be controversial. I'm not saying that it's good or bad, but I think that is one of the reasons why it's so safe in this country. Homogeneous societies all around the world in general are just safer. Polish people are racist to outsiders, but if they see that you are making an effort to learn and to assimilate to their culture, regardless of what color you are, then you will get their acceptance. And you have to understand where this racism comes from, because Poland is very skeptical.
I don't like the word assimilate, because assimilate kind of take into account that you dilute your own culture. And I think there's a way to have both within yourself. Not losing your own culture and still taking element from the new culture you're in. And I think that's a problem where when immigrants try to only keep their own culture and not integrate. I like the term integrate into the new culture. It's a problem. Or when Polish people will say no, completely assimilate to own culture. This kind of imply when you say assimilate that you want them to almost forget where they come from. Like, you left your country for a reason, now become one of us. But it doesn't work like this, especially with religion.
Goal of outsiders. Due to their history, during the 20th century, Poland had it so rough. They were conquered, they had so many different wars, they were under Soviet control, they were really to be completely honest. Another reason why foreigners leave is because of the cost of living. If you heard over the last few years, people will say that Poland was very cheap, but it's not cheap anymore. It's a rich country now. Everything is expensive or just as expensive as a lot of Western European countries, especially if you're only in the main areas like in Warsaw, right? As soon as you go a little bit outside of the city, it's a bit cheaper, but it requires a working level of Polish, and a lot of foreigners don't get to that.
So this topic is quite interesting to me because it's the same in Thailand. Cost of living is going up, especially grocery. The main thing to understand is that if you eat Polish food and you rent an apartment in a cheaper area, you're going to get by very easily. But if you decide to go to Poland and you want to live a Canadian lifestyle and eating like a steak and a lot of things that we eat in Canada, your cost of living will go up. Me, I eat mostly Thai food, like 80% Thai food. I know foreigners in Thailand that eat 100% foreign food. So for them, the cost for food can be $1,000 per month, even $1,500 per month. But me, I eat mostly Thai food, so my cost of living for food is going to be quite low. And one of the big expense when you go overseas to live, it's food, rent and food. So when those two can be similar budget as a local, then you have money for a lot of things around that. So him, I know that he liked to live in big city and things like this, so his cost of rent is probably quite expensive to begin with.
Level, so they don't really get to experience that. I think the war was the thing that really changed everything. You have 2 million Ukrainian refugees coming into the country, but not enough housing. Housing has increased a lot. Food and everything in general has also increased quite a bit. Groceries, in my opinion, are still relatively quite affordable. And if you want to go out for a date and stuff, it's still not as much as what you would be spending in the US, but it's not dirt cheap like Southeast Asia or Latin America. I know a lot of people came to Poland looking for a cheap way of life in Europe, but if you can't keep up or you don't make enough, that causes a lot of people to leave. Another culture shock to people is just the drinking and smoking culture here. This was one of the biggest shocks to me. I've never seen so many women smoke in any country that I've ever been to, ever. And I'm going to be honest, I think it's extremely disgusting. I think cigarettes are gross. Maybe people like who are millennials around my age, they don't smoke as much. Everybody in university right now, all of the women smoke. It's crazy. And it's not just cigarettes. A lot of them also smoke the IQOS, but a lot of them also smoke the vapes. I think the vapes are the most dangerous ones. Like, you can buy it super easily at Jabkas or stores around the metro station. People sell the vapes, and so many kids are smoking it, and they're smoking it indoors, and they start from such a young age. So that's why a lot of these younger generations, like especially the girls, they look so old. They're like 18 or 19, but they look like they're 24 or 25. So that was the most shocking thing to me. It's such a big part of the social culture here, especially during the winter. So since Polish culture in general...
While this might be true, I think in Canada, every generation will always say that. I grew up in the 90s. People were always saying in the 90s that like the women in high school, they look older. Then in the 2000s, people were saying the same thing about the girl in high school. I feel like it's because the fashion style changed from generation to generation. So my generation don't dress the same way as people that are in high school right now. So when I look at people in high school, because their dress, the way they dress is so different, for me they might look older than they actually are. For example, if you go to YouTube and you type, what do teenagers look like in the 1960s, right? The guy is 20, look 50. And it's mostly because of the haircut, the beard style, and the clothing style, where people used to dress back then how older people dress today. That's why that perception is probably there in Poland also with the younger generation. If you ask other teenagers, they will say, oh no, that's a teenager. But if you ask an adult, they will say, oh no, that's an adult too, even though it's not.
Is quite close. One of the ways that people meet people is through smoking. And I asked a lot of these younger people, like, why do you guys smoke? You know, it's super bad for you. But they say that all their friends did it, and it's very hard to fight against the peer pressure. And the drinking can get a little extreme as well. Like, if you go to a party, they're just all doing vodka shots. And I don't really like to drink either. And if you don't smoke or drink, then I can see how that limits your social life a lot. So with all of these
Yeah, I'm not sure that's
why did
true,
I
but
personally stay? I personally really love this country because I think just who I am as a person fits very well into Polish culture. I don't feel like I have to hide myself. My sense of humor, the way that I talk to people, Polish people seem to.
I agree with him for the most part. I don't want to put him on the spot, but I think that in a year, maybe when his Polish content will like get less views, or 2 years, and he's gonna go away from Warsaw, he's gonna go to another city. At one point, he might tell himself, "Oh, let me go to like Spain and try to like do a new YouTube channel or continue this channel or add a second YouTube channel." And then he's gonna make a video like why I left Poland that's gonna be very popular. I think that eventually, because he's more like a digital nomad, unless he has a wife and you want to start a family. But if he's not thinking about that right now, I think the chance are that he's gonna eventually go to another country. Most people that are YouTuber that make this kind of video, they never stay in one country for the rest of their life. Unless they stop doing YouTube and to do other things. Because at one point, he's going to run out of content. And he's going to need to make a decision like, what does he do? You know. So, even though I agree with all of his point, that's just my opinion. So, please tell us what you think in the comment below. Yes.